Today's guest is a two-time welterweight world champion. He is an artist, an actor, a husband, and a father. So please give a warm welcome to Mr. Homer Gibbins. Kind of explain boxing to me, because I'm not somebody who's very familiar with the sport. I don't watch it often. Maybe if there's some big nationally televised event or something like Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul.
Boxing, I mean, it's a brutal chess game. Is basically the way it is. You're making moves to make that guy make a move so that you can capitalize on that move, if done correctly, and then you hit, not be hit. That's the art of boxing. I hit you, and then when you throw back, I make you miss, and then I make you pay. That's the art of boxing. It's like playing chess. I'm trying to do something to get you to do something so that I can capitalize on that move. It's just more brutal.
Where did boxing begin for you?
For me, it started when I was 6 years old. As a 6-year-old kid, I went to wrestling, and everything they did in wrestling, I come home and tried. And so my dad was laying on the floor after doing construction all day, and I said, "Oh, it's the perfect time to try out that move, the brain buster." The brain buster is when you climbed on the rope, jumped off, and headbutted the person on the mat. And I said, "Oof, it's time." My dad was laying there, and I got on the back of the couch and jumped off and said, "Arr!" And he's like, "Ah!" and got mad. And then he checked to see if I would make sure I wasn't dead or bleeding. And then he told my mom, he said, "Tomorrow he's going to the gym. I'm gonna get his butt whooped. Going to do some boxing, get his butt whooped, and he won't want to do this crazy stuff no more." Well, my dad took me to the gym on Wednesday. I boxed. Okay, had fun. And then the guy, Lamar Goff, said, "Hey, they have a match Saturday if he wants to fight." And my dad said, "You want to try that?" And I was like, "Sure." And we did. And I came walking out, and all the fans were cheering, and I was hooked. I was a little addict.
At 6 years old.
6 years old.
So he took you into the gym on a Wednesday, and you fought on a Saturday?
Mm-hmm. I lost. Lost my first fight, but I had fun. My dad said, "You still want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And we had 250 amateur fights as a kid from 76 until 1990. I mean, at one time we were going all the time. I mean, every other weekend we were going somewhere.
And your mom, she was okay with?
She didn't mind when I was a little kid. Now, when I got older and could actually get hurt, she really wasn't too happy with me fighting at that time. But I was already hooked. I was a little addict, so you weren't going to deter me from doing it.
What do you think really drew you into the sport? What do you think hooked you? Was it seeing the lights and the fans, or?
It's all a part of that. I mean, them calling your name, you walking out to the ring, and all these people cheering for you is addictive. Getting in the ring and being able to pummel somebody is addictive. Or even being able to go out there and make them miss and you hit them. It's a weird feeling. I mean, I got kids that come to my gym now, and I mean, it's hard to explain what makes you want to get in the ring and hit somebody. But it's no different. Like, I didn't like playing baseball or football because I played a lot of the sports. But if I gave 100% and you gave 60, we could lose because of you. I didn't like that. I didn't like knowing that you control whether or not I lost. Where in boxing, if I gave my hardest, there's some guys that are just better than you. Ain't nothing you can do about it. But if I felt like if I gave my best, gave 100%, I was going to win. And 226 wins later, yeah.
Yeah, that's because I've never done boxing before. I always did like football or basketball, and so that was always a dilemma for me. Was if I felt like I was putting in 100% and nobody else would, I mean, we still would lose. Oftentimes there was teams that were just a lot better than us. But it would drive me crazy knowing that I was the one putting in 100% and there were people that were, giving
Just
50,
lollygagging
yeah,
around.
70%.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't like playing sports like that. I wanted whatever I did. I wanted to do all out. I wanted to give everything, no matter what it was. I wanted to give my best. I see that in my son Josiah, and my son Matthew as well. Both of them have that. If they're going to do something, they're going to do it to the best of their ability. Josiah is a perfectionist, and it just would drive him crazy. He was doing at 8 years old. He was trying to solve the Rubik's cube, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, and he was like, like a little crack addict, And I'm like, go to bed, go to bed. He got up the next morning with a fresh mind, said, fix it. He's like, oh. So, being driven to do something is a good trait, but at the same time, it can work against you as well. Like everything in life, has good examples from it, then it has some bad examples from it. Life, that's how life is.
Was there a time where it didn't work favorably for you?
Well, I should have retired in 1995 when they forced me to retire. I have a neck condition that I should have never fought. But, I went through a divorce. So all of a sudden I had all this anger inside of me. I needed to get that out in a positive way. So I was like, I'm going to fight again. And so I lied to doctors, told them what they wanted to hear. And then I fought from 98 until 2006. 2007 was my last fight, actually. And I won my second title in 2006. So, I shouldn't have been done it. Shouldn't have even have done it. But, I'm hard-headed.
What is your neck condition? And how did you get that?
I was born missing the odontoid process, which is the second vertebrae of your neck that allows your neck to turn and stuff like that. Well, I was born like this. So whenever somebody pulls on my neck, it would slide forward enough that would put pressure on my neck. I would lose my legs. So it would be like paralysis to an extent. Like even now, if I pull on my neck, my feet don't have reflexes, and I'll trip and stuff like that.
And so is that a pinching of the nerve?
They haven't really told me exactly what that. I know it's like a pinching of the nerve, putting pressure on the nerve, and it's at the tip of my brain, my skull. So,
Okay. Now, did that get worse throughout your boxing career?
yes. As you get older, your muscles get weaker. When you're younger, your body's kind of protecting itself. As you get older, your body gets weaker. And then, like I say, doing anything that continues to press on your neck and stuff like that, it would not be good. And for me or anybody in that condition. And it depends on who you talk to. They'll say, some people say that's a sign of retardation. That would explain a lot. I'm just saying. That's what my friend tells me. Dude, I'm telling you, it explains a lot. So,
Wow. So tell me a little bit about these glasses you got on here. These are neat.
I'm light sensitive. in 1990 when I started boxing professionally, I'd already spent so many years fighting amateur, but I was having headaches, and I went to the neurologist, and he was testing me out, put me in the MRI and doing all this stuff, and he goes, "I'm going to try something." I said, "All right," and so he stuck a light in there, put it in my eye, in front of my eyes, and then my brain was like, where they were looking at were lighting up. And he said, what I was struggling with was photophobia. I said, "Nah, I ain't got no phobia getting my picture taken. I like it." He said, no. Photophobia is a condition where you have a light sensitivity issue. It's like with people who have light colored skin. They go out in the sun and their skin burns. Mine just happens to be with regular lighting, or if I go outside, lighting outside. When they first prescribed me glasses for photophobia, they were like black. I mean, I couldn't drive at night wearing those glasses because I had a hard time seeing. Period. I mean, they were like blind man glasses. Like this. But so yeah, I've got photophobia, and then my eyes are light colored, so.
So you taking them off, or you can take them off, and it's not something permanent that you got to wear. It's just
I mean, I've been wearing shades since I was in high school. A little bit of shaded glasses since I was in high school. I never understood why. Because I'd have to do a lot of putting stuff in my eyes, and I never understood how it was connected until, like, say, in the 1990s when they talked about the photophobia being an issue, and that it's light sensitivity, and I needed to wear shades all the time. My wife doesn't like it because she can't see my eyes. She's like, "You have pretty eyes." I said, "Well, and I tell the women at work that laugh around, and they're like, "How come you always wear them glasses? Because you got pretty eyes." I said, "That's why my wife made me wear them glasses."
smart woman. So let's take me back to your early stages of boxing. Who were some of your mentors or people that you believed maybe believed in you, or even those that didn't believe in you, said that you couldn't make anything out of yourself?
You know, when I was a kid, no one would assume that I would go on to be a fighter. Even in high school, I boxed through high school. I had scholarships for acting and art. So most people would have told you, they would have thought I'd be on Saturday Night Live or something like that, because I did drama. I was a drama nerd. I was an art nerd. I did art. I won the National Art Symposium, stuff like that. So thinking that I would go on to be a boxer, that just didn't seem to fit. It just depends on who you talk to. People who knew me as a boxer would be like, "Oh yeah, we can see that. We can see him being a boxer." I don't know about a champion. They just knew I was, a tough white guy. But I actually could box and learned how to box. Evander took me on he was my manager from 90 till 2000, or 90 to 93, 94. And then I went with Stan Hoffman and, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I never really think that I would be, as a kid, I would never have thought I was going to grow up and be a boxer.
Talk to me a little bit about some of the mentors you had throughout your career.
There's a number of guys that came. You learn so much from everybody that you work with. Pernell Whitaker, Evander, Georgie Benton. Georgie Benton was so awesome as far as teaching me to hit, not be hit. Muhammad Ali coming to watch me fight, and then afterwards we talk, and he say, you don't use your jab. You don't use your jab. why ain't you using your jab? You made this fight so much easier. I'm And then even Joe Frazier, you like I say, all the different guys that poured into me, give me a little piece of advice, piece of wisdom. Me and Evander talked last night, talked about our amateur days, and he was talking about how even as I always agreed that even as a professional, the dude he was kind of put on the side. I mean, he's 4-time heavyweight champion of the world, but no one ever actually believed he could do all the things he could do. And I mean, when they were boxing in the Olympics, they were all talking about Ricky Warmack, and Evander beat Ricky Warmack, and then all of a sudden they were surprised that Evander beat him. I was like, y'all didn't see this coming. I mean, but I've had so many influences in my life with boxers like Evander and Muhammad Ali, and then guys that I just looked up to that were older than me, like Willie Ross was a guy that boxed in our gym, and John Marchman. These guys they were awesome. And just watching the way they handle things.
What was it like for you meeting some of those guys that you looked up to all your life for the first time?
It was crazy. I mean, and still today, just thinking that, I got to be friends with Muhammad Ali. And he considered me a friend, and he told me, we were talking in this hotel room. He said, be honest with me. You didn't like me when I was fighting, did you? I said, nah, I can't lie. No, I wanted somebody to shut you up. He said, but you love me now, don't you? I said, honestly, I do. I really do. And I did. I mean, he made me feel like I was accepted, like I was one of him. We're here, we are at an autograph signing, and he's treating me like I'm something special. He played around with me. He said, come here and get a picture with me with that belt on. Let me show you. He said, I didn't get to keep my belt. Come here and get a picture with me. And he said, I'll smack you and take this belt. What you gonna do? I said, you be walking out here with a limp. So I mean, it was amazing. I've lived an amazing life. I'm very blessed to have all the opportunities that I've had. I know that my dad and my mom worked very hard for me to have those opportunities. And I'm blessed.
As we go into kind of your amateur career, I want to just list off your accomplishments here, if that's okay. 15 Georgia State Golden Glove titles, 3 Georgia State Silver Gloves titles, 2 regional Silver Glove titles, 3 regional Golden Glove titles, unique accomplishment, only fighter to win regional Golden Gloves in 3 different weight classes, 125, 139, and 147. Best Boxer Award, State Golden Gloves. Best Boxer Award, Regional Golden Gloves at 125 pounds and 147 pounds. And then bronze medal in the Eastern Olympic Trials of 1988. And this was all as an amateur?
Yep, as an amateur. Like I say, the Golden Glove titles, really the only ones that really matter. It says like 14 or whatever, but the ones that really matter was when I turned open class, 16 and up. The other Golden Glove is just like a tournament. It wasn't really, but I mean, I won. I did win, but those aren't as significant because you couldn't advance to a regional tournament or a national tournament. You could say, I won a state. So, but yeah, I mean, I put it's on my bio, but To me, it's not as significant as the three wins when I won at 125, 132, and then 147. Those three wins, those where I went to the regionals and nationals, were really something because I was fighting grown men at 16 years old or 17 years old. So it meant something more. The last three regional and national titles.
Talk to me a little bit about your weight changes throughout the years. How did you manage to put on the extra weight to box in higher classes?
I always leaned down and got as lean as I could get for the fights. So adding weight was not really that much of a problem, but it's just doing it the correct way. Adding strength with that, not just eating chocolate, which is my favorite thing to do. So, yeah, going from like when I was fighting professionally, and here I was fighting 135. Everybody wanted to fight me at 140. So then I say, okay, well, I'm gonna start, gaining muscle and building up, get to 140. Then when I got to 40, everybody want to fight me at 47. Nobody want to fight me at 40. So then I move over to 47. Then everybody want to fight me at 54. I'm like, dude, I can't keep doing this. My frame just won't handle it. So I stopped trying to please everybody else and just stay where I was at. Now I'm a little thick.
So what was it like? Like, walk me through kind of how you would weight up and then kind of lean down, and how to do that the correct way.
Well, back then there was no. I mean, I wasn't doing it really correctly. It took until I was professional. Probably the last 2 or 3 years of my career did I actually learn how to lose weight correctly and stay hydrated. Because that's what people always ask me. Do you think you got a concussion when you were boxing? Yes, most definitely. I spent years dehydrating myself to make weight, and your brain is suspended by water. So when you dehydrate yourself and you ain't got no water suspending your brain, and you get hit with a good shot, that's a concussion. But after I learned how to actually lose weight correctly and stay hydrated, it was a lot easier. And then I was protecting myself. Of course, like I say, my dad would tell you, he'll say, I can tell when you start talking sometimes, you got hit one too many times. Yeah, which I've always been real quick with my tongue, but at the same time, I'll do have a drag every now and then with saying something or trying to get things from here to here. And it's part of it.
226 wins, 23 losses, 1 no contest, and 100 plus KOs. Talk to me about what it takes to have a record like that.
You're on the road a lot. Every weekend, almost you're going somewhere. As a kid, it's like we took off the summer, so it was just during the school day, during the school season. But yeah, I mean, we would go. My dad and Rusty Beasley would take me and his son Mark, put us in the back of a truck, and we would go. Our whole family would go, and we would go wherever they have fights at. Fighting Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. When you go to regional tournaments in Des Moines, Iowa, and we were always on the go. My dad made sure, like I say, I'm thankful that my dad worked and made these opportunities for me happen. I didn't really realize how much he poured into me until you get older and you got to pay for your kids to do stuff, and you're like, "Ooh, that was expensive." That costs a lot of money. You go out of town, you got to rent a hotel, stay in a hotel. I mean, my dad and my mom and dad both provided for us a way to go to all these different tournaments, national tournaments. Excuse me. And I was amazed that that they did that for me.
You've talked a lot about your dad. Was he your coach?
My dad has always been my coach. He's always been in my corner.
What was his experience with boxing prior to you beginning?
He did it as a kid a little bit. Didn't really do much. I mean, my dad was a good athlete. I mean, he was great. Like, I mean, yeah, I remember growing up watching him play softball, and he would run and slide, and the way he slid, he would. By the time he hit the bag, he would be standing up. I mean, just he was amazing to watch. He was an athlete. I mean, good at softball, good at football, good at baseball. Anything he did, he was good at. Like I say, I was not good at everything. I was good at beating people up. I was good at beating people up and did it well. But like I say, I had a soft side too, so it kind of freaks people out whenever we talk. And then, like I was a drama nerd, and people talking to me, and they're like, he's a boxer, and they're like, "You're a boxer?" Yeah. I mean, you really like hit people?
Scares them a little bit.
You hit them or they hit me. I'd rather hit them.
What's one thing that your dad taught you that you've carried with you throughout your life?
My dad, like, my dad taught me how to do construction. My dad taught me how to do maintenance. Learning how to provide for your family. No matter what, no matter what comes your way, you always can put food on the table. And that's one thing that my dad instilled in me. He said, you may not be making what you want to make, you may not be doing what you want to do, but you will be able to put food on the table. And I appreciate that. I mean, I try to teach my kids that same thing.
Why do you think that's not taught in America today?
Well, a lot of times in America today, I think that we have fatherless homes, divorce rates high, single parenting. Then you've got, even with parents that are at home, you think you're providing, but you're not mentoring, you're not educating, you're not being a parent. You're just providing. Because, and men, we as men, we think if we are bringing home the money that we're doing our part. But there's so much more to that. Being available. My dad was always available, and like I say, I now look at that and say, wow, I understand, because now I have children, and I understand trying to be there for your kids and trying to, you have to say no to certain things so you can say yes to this. And, it's hard, but then again, like where my dad pushed sports, I didn't push sports on my kids. I wanted to make sure that my kids knew how to play the piano. I wanted to make sure that my kids were musical, that they knew how to do something other than just play. And all my kids are very athletic. It's funny because even some of the ones that you don't think would be athletic, like Gabriella, you don't think she would be athletic, but you see her on the softball field, and you're like, "Whoa, she comes hard, boy." And I like that, but at the same time, I never wanted them to play. I'd rather them be able to do something. My son Josiah and Naomi, his sister, they're national debate champions. That means the world to me. To be able to articulate your thoughts and to be able to put it out there and to argue it, not like a presidential debate where you go after somebody, but the way the debate's supposed to be done. You articulate the way that you feel about an issue, whether it's positive or negative, and take what they say, and then you turn it around. It's amazing to me. I mean, like I say, my son has really thrived. This is, he's graduated this year, but he's got one national tournament left. I'm just, I hate that it's going to be going away from him because he was so good at it.
I want to step back to something you said a little bit earlier, but you were talking about how men and women alike often they think their role as a parent ends with them providing or bringing in an income or putting food on the table. And for me, that's something I've seen within the school system is oftentimes the parents will defer the raising, quote unquote, raising of the children to the school system.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, your kids are at school for 8 hours. Your kids are with you for 16. It is your job to raise your children. It's not the school system. And how is the school system going to impart what you believe, your beliefs, into your kids? That's your job. My children, we homeschool, so our kids are with us all the time. But for people who put their kids in school, you're giving your kids over to the government to educate them. That's not what I want to do. The government don't stand on some of the things that I stand on. I'm not buying into because you feel like you're a woman, I gotta call you a woman. No. I'm not gonna be disrespectful to you. At the same time, I'm not gonna lie to you either. Those are the kind of things that we're raising my kids and homeschooling. The reason we wanted to homeschool is I wanted to impart into our kids the things that we hold true. Whether I'm right or wrong, I'll go to my grave with that.
And two, to shelter them in some way. I think there's this stigma around homeschoolers that they're these weird sheltered.
Oh, there's a lot of them that are weird. I ain't gonna lie.
That's where I was going next. There are quite a few that are strange, and they're homeschooled just by you could hear a sentence from them and they're like, yep, they're homeschooled.
Yeah,
But
it's funny because like we go to these different homeschool events, and I'm always the one that stands out because I stand out pretty much anywhere I go because I dress that way. But you can tell I'm not your typical homeschool dad. You look around and be like, he's weird. Yeah, I'm looking at them going, y'all some weird people.
yeah, but I mean, being sheltered in the way that I was, I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people think it is.
You're not sheltered. You're protecting your children from certain things. They can make their mind up when they get to the age where they can experience it for themselves. I mean, our kids have been involved in sports. Our kids have been involved with all kinds of stuff. So we haven't really sheltered them to the extent that some people have. But at the same time, and if you go to a church that has a good number of people, they're not sheltered because majority of those kids in church aren't homeschooled. They go to public school. So and I've been around them. I'm like, my wife's like, where did our kids pick up that? Right there. Yeah. But yeah. Like I say, we don't shelter our kids to the point where they're not. Because the Bible says to be in the world, but don't be of the world.
That's right.
So I want my kids to be friends with people. Now I have a different mentality than my wife does because my wife wants my kids to be involved in their friend's life, and if their friends are doing something, they want them. She wants them to be an advocate, and I'm like, their problems are their problems. Let them have their problems. Don't tell my kid to carry the weight for that kid. That's not the way we do things. Of course, but that's in the way that me and my wife handle things. Of course, we agree to disagree. Yeah.
Yeah, but I love what you said about the Bible does talk about we're supposed to be in the world, but not of the world. And I think for me at least, with homeschooling, it protected me. It quote unquote sheltered me in a sense, but it was my parents preparing me to live in the world, but not to be of this world.
Yeah. You know, you. It's kind of like I mean, I'm a Christian. I go to work every day. I hope that the way that people see the way I handle things, that I'm a Christian. And the problem is that there's some days I don't handle it as well. I don't display my Christianity, as I should, because I'm still human. But the same thing with my kids. I mean, you can have a kid, but you can have a kid that goes to public school. He's a Christian kid, and I think there's going to be more temptation at a public school than there is going to be at a home school or a Christian school. But then again, I'll tell you this: if a kid gets in trouble in school and they pull him from school, where do they send that kid? Private Christian school, because they accept anybody. So you don't know what you get. You don't really know what you're getting sometimes. You think that you're doing the right thing for them, but maybe not. I don't know.
Let's backtrack to your amateur career. Talk to me about your Olympic experience in 1988. What and explain what bronze medal for Eastern Olympic trials. What does all that mean?
You had the Eastern Olympic trials. You had the Western Olympic trials. If you win the Olympic trial, Eastern Olympic trials, you go on to the Olympic trials for the box off. I won the Eastern Olympic trial, a bronze medal in the Eastern Olympic trials. The guy that I beat, like a month earlier at the Golden Gloves, wound up winning it. But I already beat him. But I lost out to this other guy named Terry Sutherland. I beat Terry Sutherland, but they gave the fight to him, and then he lost to Sean Daughtery. Like I say, there's two sides of the country, the east side and the west side, and then they fight to see who goes on to the Olympics. So I was close, but
what was that whole experience like for you?
I mean,
was it any different from your traditional boxing?
Not
tournament?
really. I mean, it's just the only time it was different for me is because we were just fighting in the States. But when we went to Canada and I fought the Canadians when I was 15, they spit on me. America! Hey, what's up with that? Especially when you beat their guy. They were upset because we come to Canada and then we beat their guys. They were spitting on us and, America, you suck. You suck, America. I'm like, oh, man.
And then you beat them.
Oh, yeah. Stefan Ofwet was the guy I fought. I fought 3 times over there in Canada. And I fought him all 3 times. And he won once and I beat him twice. And I beat him bad.
We also beat them in their own sport, hockey, and they passed the Winter Olympics. I know that was a.
Yeah, so if you beat somebody in hockey, and they have ice and you don't, you got to manufacture. That's a stab. A little salt in the wound too.
Yeah, I don't think they were too happy about that. Talk to me about what getting a KO. What is that feeling like? What's going through your head at that point when you knock somebody out?
You know, while I'm in the moment, living in the moment, I just watch if the punch lands and it lands good, and you see the eyes roll. You know, you call them. You know, it's like that. That's what I was trying to get. I was trying to get to that position where I could hit and see that. Yeah, but as soon as I mean, and when you're young too, you don't think about it. But as I got older, I started worrying about hitting guys, and then all of a sudden wondering if a guy's gonna. Because I had a guy die in a car accident the next day, but all I know is I got a call that said, "Hey, you know that guy you fought last night? He died this morning." I'm like,
Oh my god!
because I hit this guy, I hit him to the stomach, pow, and he went down. He got back up, mad, come back at me. So I said, okay, I'm gonna hit him on the chin, put it into it, pow, hit him on the chin. He goes down. He gets up, mad, because I knocked him down. He ain't never been knocked down before. I'm like, dang God. So I said, I'm go. So I went, pow, hit him. And he went down. He didn't get back up. And so then the next day I get a phone call, and he said, "You know the guy you fought last night?" 'Cause my uncles were friends with his dad and stuff. He died this morning. I was just brokenhearted, man. I was ready to quit fighting because, like, it's not worth losing your life over. Period. And but then come to find out, he was in a car accident going to work. Like somebody ran a red light, hit him. I was like, man, you could have told me that at the very first, instead of making me think that I hit him and he didn't live the next day. So it's crazy.
Is there like a sense of fulfillment or something you get when see their eyes roll or whatever, and
Yeah, I mean,
you knock them out?
it's kind of like scoring a run in baseball. You're scoring the winning run. When you catch a guy with a shot like that, you have that feeling of, I just accomplished the goal. I just won. But I never wanted to hurt anybody per se. There was a couple guys that probably I did want to hit with a good shot, but I never want anybody to lose their life over boxing because it's not worth it.
Are you relieved when get that knockout because you can rest then?
Oh yeah, it's kind of like, okay, you have a certain amount of money that you're going to get paid for. That when you sign for a fight, you're going to get paid this amount of money. And like I say, I never fought for the big money because I was just doing it because I wanted to make a name for myself. And I signed contracts to fight people, and it didn't pay nothing, or it did pay something, but it wasn't enough to really make a significant difference. So when you go out there and you're supposed to go 10 rounds, that's 30 minutes of fighting, and I knock you out in 2. That means I got this amount of money for 6 minutes of fighting. That's a better percentage.
All around, better on your body, better for everything.
Better on your body, better on your paycheck. The longer the fight goes, the more opportunity you got to get in cut accidentally or whatever. So it was always better to go out there and just take care of business.
Now you just said you were signing contracts left and right for all sorts of gigs you could get. Jean Pascal, am I saying that right?
Jean Pascal. Yeah.
fought him on a week's notice?
Well, see, that's one of those things where they first told me I was going. They said, "Hey, we got to fight for Jean. He's going to be fighting a guy that looks just like you, fights just like you." I was all right, and they told me his weight class was like 168. I was okay. I said, "Well, I'm fat right now." And they said, "Well, yeah, dude, this guy fights just like. If you could come up here and train with Jean, get him ready for this fight, you'll be his last couple of weeks of sparring." I said, "Okay." So I went up there, and I never sparred with Jean. I sparred with other guys. And then come the fight night, they called me up to the scales and said, "Next up, wait for the fight is Homer Gibbins." I was like, "I'm not fighting." "What do you mean you're not fighting?" I said, "I came up here to work with Jean. I ain't come here to fight." And they go, "No, you fight Jean." No, I'm not fighting Jean. And so we had to renegotiate the contract real quick. And I was like, "I'm not fighting it." And I said, "Just give me my plane tickets. I'm going to go on home." He said, "You not fight Jean. You pay your own way home." What? So I fought Jean and got my plane tickets and got paid.
That same night?
Yeah, that. Well, I mean, I was up there for a week, and I never saw the guy, and they never let me work with the guy. I was like, "I thought y'all wanted me up here to train with Jean." "Oh yeah, no, don't worry, he's good." They got me up there on false pretenses, and the next thing you know, it pushed me into the fight.
So were you always the guy who was going to fight? Or
Yeah, for them, yes, not for me. I didn't know that, and I can't speak French, so I don't know what they saying.
so how did the fight go?
It didn't last long. He hit me with a good body shot, I think, or a good right hand. I went out there and tried to hit him. I was like, "I'm here now. I might as well go out there and try to kill him." But I wasn't in shape. That's, so, but I ain't back down for nobody.
So in your pro career, you went pro in 1990 and you had an extensive 17-year career from 1990 until 2007, or you said 2006.
Yeah, 2007 was my last fight.
What kept you going for that long?
I like to prove people wrong. That was my whole mentality. A lot of times was just proving people wrong. People say I can't do it. You can't do this or you can't do that. And I was the kind of person, if you ever told me I can't do something, I was going to do it just because you said I can't. That can be a good thing. It could be a bad thing.
Do you think that became a bad thing for you going that long?
I probably should have retired in 95, but, it served its purpose. I was able to get out there and use it to get through some of the aggression, the anger that I carried. Would I tell somebody else to do that? No. I would be against it. I'd be like, "Nah, I think it'd be best if you do this." But I don't live with regrets. Life's too short to live with regrets. I did what I did. I'll pay the consequences.
What was it all for proving people wrong, or was there any love for the game there too?
I love the sport. I love the sport of boxing. Getting in there and making the guy miss and making him pay. I love that aspect of boxing. I love trying to figure out a plan and to dismantle this guy. Even knowing sometimes going into a fight that my body was not Even at my best, if I was 100% of what I was only 100% of 75% because my body wouldn't allow me to be more than that. So that was, I mean, to me, it was to prove people wrong. My friend, the doctor, Dr. Griffin, told me that, I can't do this. You can't do this. It's not in your best interest. Of course, I was thinking that he was just saying that I can't do it, so that I was going to prove him wrong and show him I could do it. But what he was saying is that later on in life, it's all going to come back to bite you. And I didn't realize that when I was younger. So, but now that I'm older, I'm like, oh yeah, can't do this. Yeah, because right now I feel it. But you live and you learn.
What made you decide to turn pro in 1990?
I was up in Virginia working with the Duvas promoting company, and they were talking about me out. I was hitting Pernell Whitaker with good shots and beating Mildred Taylor. These guys that they handled, and they were talking to me about turning professional. Say, you ever thought about doing this professionally? And I was like, and he said, well, I said, Evander wants me to wait around till the Olympics come and try to get me a medal in the Olympics. And Lou Duva said, your style is better equipped for the professionals. You're not a boxer. You're ready to go in there and beat them down and take them down and then knock them out in later rounds. And I said, yeah. He said, so you're built and the way you fight is better for the professionals than it is for the amateurs. I don't think that you're going to really make as much an impact in the amateurs as you would as a professional. And so I told Evander that, and I showed Evander the contract that the Duvas offered me. And Evander looked at the contract and let his attorney look at the contract, and he said, Homer, where are your options? I said, what option? He said, how much money you going to make? I said, what you mean? He goes, if you fight for a title, what did they say about a title? I said, in 2 years, they said I could fight for a title. He goes, okay, if you fight for a title, how much of that money you going to get? I'm like, all of it. He said, nope, this contract says you get $500 a week, $5,000 up front. I said, all right, well, how much of the money I get for the title? He goes, you don't get no title money. You get $500 a week, $5,000 up front for 4 years. What? He said, that's what I'm saying. You don't have no options. And so I didn't understand the contracts and stuff like that. So Evander said, if you want to fight professionally, you tell them I'm going to manage your career. And I said, okay. So I told the Duvas that Evander's going to manage my career. And they said, okay. So you still going to fight in Lake Tahoe? I said, yes, sir. My opponent changed from Juarez to fighting somebody who lived and trained, an African Olympian who lived and trained in Lake Tahoe. That's the business of boxing. If you're not making me no money, I don't want you to win. I learned that the hard way.
What was the transition from amateur to professional like in the sense of competition, skill level?
The skill level was the same pretty much. You have to learn because you start increasing rounds. Like in the amateurs, you went 3 rounds. As a professional, you went 4. And then you build up to 6, 10, 8, 6, 8, 10, 12. 12 rounds for a professional title. And if you think that 36 minutes of fighting is not tough, it's tough. it breaks you down, breaks your body. So you have to learn to pace yourself. You have to learn to go out there and box in spurts. Where in the amateurs, you got 3 minutes, 3 rounds. You got to put it all out there, all you got, everything you got. In the professionals, you got to take your time. Now that don't mean that as soon as I saw you come out of the dressing room, if I didn't see no sweat on you, I was coming after you because you weren't warm. I was gonna hurt you. Bell ring, I was right across the ring trying to take you out. But a lot of times I go out there, and if a guy was prepared, I knew that it was going to take 12 rounds or 10 rounds to get him out. I had to learn to take my time, break him down. If he's got a good jab, take his arm from him. If he's got good legs, take his legs from him. If he's got a good right hand, avoid the right hand and take his right hand from him. It's just like, say you're playing chess.
Every move was calculated.
Oh yeah.
You beat Olympian Todd Foster on ESPN. What did that victory mean to you on a stage like that?
Well, I mean, it gave me some notoriety. People realized that I wasn't just a hometown fighter. I was actually somebody that was destined for something greater. Todd Foster was somebody that I knew that I could beat, but they chose me anyway because they didn't know that they didn't assume that I was a good fighter enough that I could beat Todd Foster. That's why they chose me, and plus I had to come up in weight. So the victory was sweet. Just putting it in their face. Y'all chose me. You chose this butt whooping. So
how did all that come together?
They were looking for somebody to fight Todd Foster, and he was making transition up to the welterweight division, and they were working on his boxing skills, and they felt that I was a safe fight. Didn't turn out that way.
You took it away from him. What was I want to kind of know what was the look on his face when you beat him?
I mean, he looked puzzled the whole entire time. Like, he would sit down and they'd be talking to him. He just got this look on his face like, I thought I was supposed to be able to walk through this guy. Well, y'all didn't tell me that. You might have should have shared that story with me. But no, I came to win. I came to win, and that's what I did. I mean, I went out there and outboxed him. I was beating him, punch for punch. I was dictating the fight. I was the man. So
now, did that elevate your status kind of on the whole pro circuit?
Somewhat it did, but it still was one of those things where I was outside the circle. You got a circle of people that fight. Boxing is a business, and that's the hard part of understanding. That's like even me and Evander talked about the fact that boxing is a business. The business end of boxing is hard to understand. It's corrupt. I beat Todd Foster. Todd Foster got to fight Hector Camacho before I did. I beat him. How is he going to get to fight Camacho before me? That's the business end of boxing. They act like they try to make it look like I didn't even win that fight, like it never happened. No, it's on ESPN. But that's the business of boxing. It's corrupt.
What's your most memorable fight?
Yeah, I love fighting Chad Broussard for the title. I love fighting Kenny Vice for the title. I love fighting Hector Camacho, Todd Foster. All of them carry a significance to me. Fighting Tommy Hanks, going 10 rounds for the first time, and beating Tommy Hanks. They all have a significance to them, and just the meaning of just overcoming the obstacles that they put in front of you. that's what it's what it's all the fights mean to me. Just knowing that I did something that people said I couldn't do, and I proved to you that don't say I can't do something because I do what I want.
Boxing is one of those things that many would consider a violent sport. And I've seen the argument that it's not a very Christian thing to beat up on another person. What would your rebuttal be to something like that?
If you go out there and play softball against another team, or you wrestle against another player, yes, your goal is to win. Can a Christian compete? Because the Bible uses boxing in the Bible. Fight the good fight. I think that I did that. It's funny because when boxing was over and people talk about me, and sometimes even in the fight, like the fight I fought Matt Vanda, it's on YouTube, and they talk about that Homer is just a nice guy, just such a nice guy. But this is not really a nice thing we're about to do because we're going to try to kill Homer. I was considered a nice guy. Not really something you want people to say about your boxing career. Oh, that Homer's such a nice guy. You want them to say I'm tough or I'm a great fighter or something like that. But I always got labeled as the nice guy. So that was funny.
You use the fight the good fight. Many look at it as a metaphor, but you take it in the literal sense.
I took it literally, yeah. I mean, I fought a good fight. I gave everything I got. I gave glory to God. I was considered a nice guy. Even though I got in the ring, I was trying to hurt you. But it was just in the line of sports. I wasn't trying to hurt you outside. That's like I didn't talk about people at the weigh-ins. I didn't talk about your wife or your kids and stuff like that. I talk about you. If I was fighting you, I say, if you think that you're going to beat me, if you even dream of beating me, you better wake up and apologize. And say, hey, my friend, he's my friend now, I'm Chad Broussard. We fought for the title 3 times. And I loved the guy. I loved him. I still love him today. But we got in the ring. He's a Christian. I'm a Christian. We could lay it on the line. We could go at one another, no fear. Because if we died in the ring, we're going to heaven. So we could give it our all. But at the same time, after the fight, I hug his neck, tell him I love him. To this day, we talk on Facebook and check up on him and his little girl. It's crazy, but at the same time, when we in that ring, standing across from one another, I want to bash you. I want to bash your brains in. I want to do everything I can to hurt you.
How do you manage to stay friends with somebody when the dynamic is like that?
Because you have a respect for what they put into it. Because as hard as you worked, they worked just as hard. You a long time ago, as kids, if you got in a fight with somebody in school, you usually became friends with them because you respected they stood up for themselves, or they respected you stood up for yourself, one other way, and you stood your ground. And you usually had a camaraderie about that, and you become friends. With boxing, I mean, you gave 100%. It didn't work. It didn't work out for you this time. But, 54 other times it did. So I have such respect for you. And I have such love for you. It's just competitive sports. It's just sports. Just like playing any baseball team, playing another baseball team. When you go out there, you want to win. You'll do whatever you got to do to win. Same thing with boxing. I'm gonna do whatever I got to do to win.
Well, that seemed to work out for you over your career.
46 times as a professional, and then 226 times as an amateur. So, not too bad.
Talk to me about your faith, and what was your first encounter with Jesus?
As a kid, they had a church bus that would come through the apartments. I was a pain in the butt, is the best way to put it. I was a pain in the butt. Only child. So my mama said, when the church bus came through the apartments, you be on the bus. I need a couple hours without you here. So I went on the bus and went to church. They said, hey, you want to keep coming to church? I'm like, yeah. They said, you need to be baptized. What's that? That's what we dunk you in the water. I said, well, I can swim. They said, well, just kind of like that. I said, okay. So they dunked me in the water. I got baptized. And I came home and I told my dad about it. My dad said, you got baptized? I said, yes. He goes, you can't sin no more. I said, really? Because I think I already broke that one. I think I already did that. But I didn't really get saved until I was like 18 years old. I had a misconception of what Christianity was. Started dating a girl, and to date this girl, her dad said I had to go to church. And I was like, okay. So I went to church, and the people I was partying with on Friday and Saturday night was at church. And I'm like, hey, I know these people. What's up, man? And I was like, hey, I know these people. So then I got to be friends with church. But then God just was stirring, just pricking. And then, I felt the pull. I felt the weight of my sin, the gravity of that. And all of a sudden I was like, I need to be saved. And I got saved. And I didn't get baptized again because I was like, I already been baptized. I'd done that already. Until I was like 40-something years old at the church at Oak Hill. I was like, I was doing a study in a Sunday school class I was teaching. And it was talking about how you get saved, then you get baptized. Not baptized, then saved. So I wanted to follow through with my part and be an example to other people. So I got baptized.
When you were 18 and really came to, you had that pricking in your heart and really came back to Jesus, did you understand the gospel message?
I did. At that point in time, I understood that Jesus died for my sins. I understood that I was hell-bound without him. And I needed somebody, a savior, to save me. But I didn't realize that there was, it's the work of salvation in your life. Once you get saved, there should be some fruits that you show. Display, and so I started studying the Bible. I drift in, drift out, drift in, drift out. Excuse me. Life has a way of opening doors and closing doors, and God will. If God is inside you, He will woo you, or He will sometimes discipline you to get you back on the right path. And for me, it was a long process of I'd be doing good, but then all of a sudden I'd stray. But even now, there are some days that I feel closer to God, And some days I feel like I'm distant from God. And it's me. It's not him. He hasn't moved. It's me. It's the way I'm handling things, or the way that I'm trying to handle things, and not relying on him. But my relationship with God, I mean, it's personal. God works with me differently. I tell people all the time, I said, there's certain things I don't pray for because I know God answers them in the way he answers them. And he's not going to answer them the way I want him to answer them. So I just don't pray for certain things because I know he's going to do something totally different than the way that I see it being done.
How difficult was it to stay on the straight and narrow in the boxing world?
It's always easier to be a representative of Christ when you're away from home versus being at home, because they see all the ugly. You know, my parents have always been one that would tell me that they thought, I mean, that they saw a change. You know, they saw a big change in my life. Now, my wife is one that she was like, she loves me, but she wants me to be better, wants me to always be better, 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 better. And I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So that tends to rub a little bit, you know, on my foolish pride, you know, because I'm not perfect yet. But my wife expects me to be. Or she anticipates me on being perfect, and that sometimes rubs me the wrong way because I'm like, I can't get that yet. And I know, you know, some of the things in my life, it's because of me. You know, it's what I choose. I don't choose. I don't want God to fix this because right now I'm comfortable, and I don't want God to break this apart and rebuild it. You know, and people are like, wow, that's honesty. I ain't no liar.
How did the Lord sustain you throughout your long career?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm walking, uh, and my doctor, Dr. Griffin, would tell you that I shouldn't be able to walk. I should have been paralyzed a long time ago, but I'm still here, still functioning. I can still talk, so God has protected me through my ignorance and my arrogance.
You've had championships, accolades, and recognition, but what really drives you now?
My kids, I want to be there for my kids. I want to be a good dad. Um, I want to guide them in the way they should go and be there for them. That's about it now.
You have quite the legacy, and you may be remembered for all the things you did for boxing, in boxing, all your championships, all that. But what do you want to be remembered for now?
Well, you know, being remembered as a fighter is a good thing. Um, I do want to get into the Georgia Sports Hall of Fame. My cousin has worked on that, but it's a lot of politics, a lot of kissing butt. I don't do that. Yeah, my cousin, he tells me all the time, you just gotta caress the right wheels. I'm like, dude, I ain't doing that. That's just not how I am. It's not who I am. I say if what I've done doesn't speak for itself, then I would rather not be in there. You know, I'm in the Griffin Sports Hall of Fame, and I'm on a couple online sports Hall of Fame. So that's cool enough for me. I said, and Evander was telling me, he's like, well, them Hall of Fame and stuff, that's like a popularity contest. He said, and I wouldn't let it bother me that you wasn't as popular. George is a hard place to fight. I mean, we have George has always been a place that's been. It wasn't a great fight town. They didn't get behind the fighters, even when Evander was a world champion. They had to give tickets away to get people at the fights for some of his fights here in Atlanta. It just George has never really been that great to fighters. So I just have to accept that as it is.
If you were to walk out of here and die today, what do you want your family to remember about you?
I hope they remember I made them laugh. That I wasn't, I wasn't an authoritarian to them, but I loved them the best that I could. Um, and they are my greatest achievement. My kids are my greatest achievement. Peyton just got her pinning today for nursing. Um, Josiah, Gabriella, Naomi, Esther, Heather, Matthew. Just, I mean, the way that who they are and who they're becoming is my greatest testimony. Is my greatest achievement. That they are productive, that they are great citizens, that they're good Christians. Um, that's all I can ask.
How does the accolades and who your children are becoming, how does that compare with winning a world title?
Uh, you know, if I could give somebody that when I come through the door, and now entering the house, yeah, that feels it's almost uncomparable. Hearing somebody say, "And now entering the ring, the two-time welterweight champion of the world." It's hard to compare that. But when you ever hear one of your children say "daddy" as a baby, it's that same like you feel like you're accomplished or that you've done something. It's a weird. It really is strange how that. But even hearing them say that I'm a world champion versus my kids saying "dad," it's uncomparable. I would rather hear "dad" all day long.
You have a gym, and with that gym, you use it for outreach in a sense. Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I have a pastor that comes to my gym. His name is Jim Hood, uh, and he he's the one that really like understands. He's like, man, he's lost 100 pounds. Just amazing. Uh, I'm so proud of him. But he talks about how the kids, like the one kid brings his report cards home, showed me his report card, because the boxing gym is great. I love what we do there. I love what we're building. But I want you doing the best I want you to be the best that you can be throughout life, not just at the boxing gym. I want you to be the best you can be as a student. I want you to be the best you can be as a son. You know, and some kids, as a father, they come in our gym and want to be the best father you can be. You know, be the best that you can be at whatever it is you do. And that's hopefully that's what we teach. I feel that's what we teach anyway.
What would you say, and just kind of wrapping up here, what would you say to a parent concerned about putting their child in a combat sport?
Well, your kid doesn't have to compete. Your kid doesn't have to get in the ring. They can learn the skills and not actually have to use it. But I will say this though: if you have the skills but you don't ever use it, are you really? Do you really have the skills? It's kind of like Jordan Peterson talks about Christianity. If you don't have the ability to be violent, are you being moral, or are you just being a coward? If you're a coward and you're not doing anything aggressive or protective, that's just cowardice. It's not really morals. Yeah, I didn't put that in the right process. I didn't process that correctly, but that was what he was saying. That basically, if you can't do any damage to someone or you can't protect someone, you're not really being moral. You're being a coward. And even the Bible talks about cowardice. It's not a good thing.
Not at all. Mr. Homer, I want to thank you so much for doing this evening. It's been a absolute pleasure for me to walk through your life and learn more about you and your incredible career. So thank you for this. But before we close, I offer every guest the opportunity to underline a verse or a passage of scripture or even a whole chapter that has meant something for them throughout their life, their career in a tough time. And so, is that something you would be
Yeah,
willing to
most
do?
definitely. I always sign Psalms 23:4. Though I walk through the valley of shadows of death, I fear no evil. For thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. That's been my verse since I got saved, pretty much. I mean, that spoke to me because I feel like I've always been one that walks in the shadows of death. With boxing, you never know. You could be one punch away from eternity. Some of the life choices I've made, I'm real close to being one step away from eternity, and just knowing that God is my comforter, God is my healer, God is my salvation. You know, that was my verse, Psalms 23:4.
That's beautiful. You can highlight it in that Bible. Mr. Homer, thank you again so much.
Yes, sir.